Brother-in-law, David.
I know, you said uncle.
Sorry.
You try and get
My
young.
Uncle Holton, my sister Janice, and her husband David both have had. She's still testing positive, but they've decided that she's probably going to continue to test positive for some time. So she is back at work with everybody aware of what's going on. All right, we are going to jump right into a practical conversation that we left off with last week. I was not expecting two of our students to be here. I am pleasantly surprised because they said they weren't going to be, but whatever changed. I hope it's not a great disappointment for them, but we're glad that they're back. It'll keep me from having to ask and answer some questions. We're talking about the practical application of 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 and 2, and under what circumstances and how should the church be in the, how do I phrase this? What is the appropriate way for the church to gather funds? Specifically, we talked about some applications of that last week. How about electronic funding? We discussed that in our time. And does it have to be on a Sunday? If we did that, we had that conversation. We got into a discussion regarding whether or not it was appropriate for bake sales, car washes, or things like this in order for the church to raise money, and why. If so, why? And if not, why not? And does it make any difference? So, what do you think? Does it make any difference? Can a church hold a car wash?
Depends.
You say yes?
Well, it depends on what the money's used for. Is there a specific purpose?
So the end justifies the means.
Well, if there's a specific purpose that you're using it for instance, if the Honduras group decided that they were going to have a car wash to help people go to Honduras, and that was going to be used for a specific purpose, I believe that would be all right. But as for what the church would normally use for its day-to-day operations and or other means, then no. So it's a half yes, half no.
That's the look right there.
Somebody else got that?
That's the look.
I'm not sure what the look is.
I don't either. I've been looking at you a long time.
There you go.
So we know it's
Okay. Anyone else? Oh no, I'm not going to leave it laying there. We'll come back.
Well, I guess you could say you can do it individually because that could be your job. You know, if you're a person that washes cars, then you give up your means for washing cars.
All right. So if you're a car washer and you wash cars and give the money to the church,
You
then
just can't come together as non-car washers by trade, so you come together and do it. I guess.
okay. I use that illustration because it's not uncommon for various groups, civic groups, cheerleaders, bands, football teams to hold a car wash on somebody's property, and they put signs out sometimes telling, "Here's what we're doing," and come help our event. And the question comes up: should the church? Is that an acceptable method for the church to raise funds? Anybody want to argue the other side? Or is it going to be up to me?
If a church needed money for day-to-day operations, why would it be wrong to have a bake sale or to have a yard sale?
I've never,
Go ahead, Robbie.
in my 62 years, I've never known any of the churches to ever have anything like that. And I don't believe it's
Not churches of Christ.
Right. Oh, right. Churches of Christ. Churches of Christ.
And you go to the Church of the Nazarene, the Seventh-day Adventist, and some others, and it's not uncommon at all.
But it's our responsibility as Christians, as brothers and sisters, to look out for each other. And if the folks like Tyler was talking about needing stuff for Honduras, we would provide for them somehow or another without having a car wash and inviting everybody in to give us money for that. Just everybody that could drive by and see we had a car wash.
What if it's not on church grounds?
Well, now I don't know. I've never known anybody to do that either.
What was the purpose in the very beginning when Paul said, concerning the collections, you know, why did he tell them to do that, and why did he tell them to do it on Sunday? He's not asking them to go and get money from the neighborhood.
People sold their property to give to the church.
Yeah, it goes on. I know a church that sold and gave to this church.
Well, some years back, the elders allowed the Ladies Helping Hands to make and sell a cookbook for things that we were doing, not, you know, related to the church, but helping people and whatever they wanted to do. And I asked my cousin in California if she wanted to buy one, and she said, "Joy, I thought you would know that's a sin."
The Ladies Helping Hands has come to my house before, our house, and had yard sales for agape.
Oh yeah, they did.
So that, but not on the
Does having a yard sale on their church grounds make it wrong?
I'm not gonna argue with the elders. I've known all the years they said it was, and I didn't.
I'm not ducking, I'm just letting everybody weigh in.
Well, I'll look at, like, I'm just gonna say, okay, well, because I fundamentally agree that it should not, church grounds should not be used for that kind of thing.
Because?
But I look at it, well, I wish I had some defense in here, that's what I'm hoping you're gonna come up with, but no, that's just my gut feeling, because I feel like that the church should be, a place of outreach and missions. So what I would say is, to counter that, why don't we have a free car wash for all the elderly in the community, and we open our doors up as a community event, we bring everybody in, we wash people's cars for free, and that's kind of our call to the community, rather than trying to ask the community to pay for something that we're doing in an outreach mission.
If you bring Jesus into the situation, there was a specific time in his life where he got very angry at people trying to make money for whatever reason. So I think it's a matter of the heart and not getting caught up in specifics, but like God calls us to, as an individual, give to the church. And when we make it about other people trying to give for you, that's when it becomes about other people and not you giving something from your heart.
You're running all over where I'm gonna end up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you let me keep going.
No, you're good. You're doing good. And what you're describing, is there a pattern that we have for our activities? Does it make a difference whether it's individual or a group? Y'all are being awfully quiet. And I know you've got questions.
We're just listening.
Okay. Does it make any difference if it's group or individual? Remember, when we had part of this conversation last week, and when I tell you what it is, you're going to remember it. Can we have pepperoni pizza and Dr. Pepper for the Lord's Supper?
Not all right.
No.
Why can we not?
Not all right.
But it doesn't say not to. The Bible does not say don't have Dr. Pepper and pepperoni pizza for the Lord's Supper.
But it does say that.
Does not.
It does say
Then you
that.
go
Show
back
me
to
the verse.
Approved example.
Show me the verse where it says do not have Dr. Pepper or pepperoni pizza for the Lord's Supper.
It is
I'll stand and wait.
Specified
I'll even give you some
as
music.
what-
Do 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 do.
It is specified as what to use. That rules out everything else. That will be quite enough.
Never get there. It isn't in there. It's not there. There is no verse. What is there a verse for? Yes, you're on the right answer. Just keep going.
It's specified what to use.
Because we have a pattern. That's right. Now, what pattern did Paul give to the church regarding the contribution for the needs of Christians? How is it done?
You meet each first day of the week.
The church provides for other Christians from themselves. As a group, our responsibility is to give, not raise money. We are not a money-raising organization. We are a charitable group. But that charity comes from each of us individually. All right, let's see it. I'm going to come back and address the other side. Let's see that happening in real life. Okay. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. And we're on the same topic. I mean, we are spot on the issue. Moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, and beyond their ability, they were freely willing, imploring us with much urgency that we would receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering of the saints. And not only as we had hoped, but they first gave themselves to the Lord, then to us by the will of God. Paul says God's will is that we as Christians give. And Paul used the Macedonians as an example. And he says, look at these people. This is your verse, Matt. 2 Corinthians 8 is where you're going to go. But the Lord's Supper is also, use that as a pattern, because nobody's ever going to fight that pattern. Establish the pattern and then put this in here. And that's the way you answer that. Now, what's wrong with a bake sale? No, it doesn't matter what the good is. It doesn't matter what the outcome is or what we're going to do with the money. That's irrelevant. It's the process that makes the difference. Would it be a good thing to raise money to send to Honduras? Sure. Help it. Would it be a good thing to wash the community, the cars of the community? Sure, no problem. Would that be a wrong thing for a church to do? No, it would not. If we decided that we wanted to wash everybody's car if you had a Maysville address, I guess that's Gurley address. Well, that doesn't really work, does it? Assume it's a Maysville address. You got to have a Big M Acres address. Be right here in our community. We're going to wash your car. Would that be okay for us to do as a church? Victor, could we do that? Would you object?
No.
I wouldn't either. In fact, I'd be out there with a wash brush and a bucket and a hose. No problem. We going to do it and ask them to pay money for it? Not on your life. Why not? There's no pattern for it. We don't have the right to raise money from the community for any reason. The responsibility we have as Christians when we intend to give to God is that we bring from us. Giving is a sacrifice to God. You don't sacrifice to God when you raise it from some other reason or from some other source. That's not a gift to God. Giving to God and all of our gifts that we give for the benefit of the church to help other people is a gift to God. When you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto me. That's what Jesus said. So our service is to God. And it's us doing it. Now here we are in 2 Corinthians 8. And Paul says, look at the Macedonians. And they're poor. They're dirt poor. They got no money. Paul doesn't say, look how much money they raised and gave to us. No, he says they are so poor they couldn't afford it, but they begged us for the opportunity for them personally to be able to give to the church, because that is wait for it, will of God, verse 5. God's plan for us is that we provide for one another. Now, if we took the time to go all the way through the rest of chapter 8 and into chapter 9, Paul would be talking to the Corinthians and he would say, I don't mean for you to be burdened and them to do nothing. It's not a matter of the church in Jerusalem sitting around doing nothing and you having to take care of them. He says this is a matter of distributing our needs. They have a need now. You provide for them. You may have a need later. They'll provide for you. So we're taking care of the Lord's church. Everybody understand so far? Let me give an example of that. And the person who has the need is the one who we give toward. Many years ago, when Lauren was younger, she had a number of surgeries. There were lots of things that she had to get fixed. When the girls were very young, that was a struggle for Leah because it looked like Lauren was getting lots of birthdays. You know, every time you turn around, something was going on with her. And when she went to the hospital or had surgery or whatever, first of all, there's a whole lot of attention given to her. Second of all, a lot of people gave Lauren presents of various kinds. Well, it made Leah a little jealous. You know, here's Lauren and she's getting all this stuff and I'm not getting anything. How is that fair? She got stuck off with the family somewhere, and Lauren's getting the attention of both mom and dad 24 hours a day in the hospital. So she felt bad about that. So you have to explain it. What do you say to a 5-year-old child about her 7-year-old sister? She has a need right now. She is hurting, and she needs something done for her. We don't love you any less. You are not being made second rate. You are not being pushed aside. But she has a need that needs us right now that no one else can provide for. And so that's what this is all about. That's the same thing Paul says to the Corinthians. He said, you're not being put down. You're not being expected to carry a burden greater than anybody else. They have a need right now. You don't. If you had a need, we'd be talking about raising money for you. But the church did it. Okay? Is there a difference in what the church can do and individuals can do? Yes, there are. Now, I've got a thought in my mind right now.
Better write it down.
I know. That ought to help me. Okay. Let's go back to, let's just go there.
Well, before we get too far,
Okay. Go ahead.
I have been to places that when giving money at a perceived collection time,
Yep.
they have said, everything we collect today is going towards this purpose.
Yep.
And you can give either towards that purpose or not. Is
Yes.
that also specified, or is that a clean gift?
Is there anything wrong with that? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Is that an inappropriate process?
Is that, well, as you know, for us to say, hey, as a church, we're going to give to this person, and we're going to do it at the time when we would normally collect for everybody, but we're only going to give it to there. Now, is that normally? I would assume that, you know, if we were doing that as a church, that, you know, Jim and Carrie would say, hey, we're not going to tell anybody, we're just going to do it. You know, is the difference in knowing where it goes as a decision beforehand or after? Does that make a difference in the appropriations?
Short answer?
Sure.
No.
Okay.
It's fine. And here's why.
Okay.
When Paul gave this example, first of all, any of you planning to make a contribution today to the church?
Already did.
I haven't yet. You want to take my check down there? Let me do it. She didn't get to do it often enough.
Okay.
It's ours, but you know. Yeah, are you? Why'd you do that? Does 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 and 2 tell you to give money to that basket that's down on the table right now? Barbara, stop moving your head. I don't want to embarrass you in a minute. No, it does not. You're going, wait, what? No, it does not. Are we going to take any of that money and take it to Jerusalem and give it away to the churches in Jerusalem? Is any of that money going to be carried to Jerusalem and given away? No, it's not. 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2 is not written to us. We are not taking up money to carry to the church in Jerusalem. And you're going, oh, well, wait a minute. If that's the case, then why are we taking up money? Okay. Do you see anything right here in this room that needs money?
The electricity.
All right, we got lights. Well, here's our light bill, and we owe X dollars, whatever it is. I don't know what our light bill is. Have no idea. Let's say it's $480. Okay, we got a light bill here for $480, and we need to pay it. So pass the hat, put in, give. As you have interest, ability, pay for the light bill. Okay, a few minutes later, what else do we have?
Building,
Okay, we got something.
some mortgage.
We don't have a mortgage
I know.
presently. We're paid off, but
Yeah,
let's
but
suppose that
most people do.
a few weeks ago we had to have that air conditioner replaced. and the one down there. They were both out. That probably cost, I don't know, $12,000-$15,000. All right, so we had to have air conditioner replaced. We're going to pass the collection plate, and we need to pay up for the air conditioning. Okay, so here it goes. All right, what else?
Vans.
Okay, we've got vans. They have insurance. Insurance bills here, it's X dollars we need to collect for that. So here comes the plates, and we do that. We done yet?
Got a picture, right?
Yes.
Don't forget.
Thank you. Some people probably like to not contribute to that fund as well as it is. Can we shorten the sermons a little bit? You know, I've always said I'm an easy buy. I can be bought. A 50 beforehand will get you a shorter sermon every time. So just see me before church.
All right, y'all, I'll meet y'all at the door.
We're gonna take a collection.
The better the richer I get, the shorter I am. I'm kidding. Within reason. Yeah, you know, it used to be the real. Oh, I've used up all our time. The real world of the church in the past was you had arrived as a church when you had what? A building to meet in and a located preacher. That was what churches longed for. At the beginning, they had groups of people, but they didn't have a place to meet, so they would build a building. But then there was nobody to preach, and so there was very few people coming by. Well, that's changed, but that was where the real interest was. Well, that's usually not a problem now to provide for that. The pattern is that the church regularly give to provide for needs. Whatever those needs are. The church has X needs, missionary needs, local needs, building needs, staff needs. Any of you see gross things on your table? Oh, missed a spot. Joy, you get deducted for that. Who cleans this building? That lady sitting right over there. Think she ought to do it for free? Paul said you don't muzzle the ox that treads out the corn. No, I did not just call you an ox. Just like Solomon said, you wouldn't know my riddle if you hadn't plowed with my heifer. And he wasn't calling his wife a cow either. Although I've used that before, and my wife said, "Did you call me a cow?" There's a principle in that the church does for people who do for it. Paul said to the Corinthian church, "You owe me, but I have not let you pay me anything because I didn't want you to be able to say, we made Paul rich." Paul says, "I robbed other churches to serve you." What he didn't say is, because you are such babies spiritually that I knew you wouldn't understand. And you'd just say, Paul's just in it for the money, and he just came through here so that we'd give him money. Paul says, "I won't take a dime from you." But the church at Philippi gave to him over and over and over again because they were spiritually mature and they understood the principle. Here's the principle. God's people take care of their own. Why don't we fundraise? There's no pattern for it. Why does the church give from ourselves on the Lord's Day? Because there is a pattern for it. The pattern for giving, the pattern for providing for personal needs, the pattern for regular giving on a weekly basis as we gather together. That was an approved pattern for the church to take care of its needs. Okay? Is there a passage of scripture that says don't have a bake sale, garage sale, yard sale, car wash, or anything? No, there's not. Just like there's not a single passage of scripture that says don't have Dr. Pepper in the Lord's Supper or pepperoni pizza. But you'd say, well, we would never do that. Why? Because there's a proved example. Here's our approved example. This is how the church did it. And if we're going to be the church of the New Testament, that's how we're going to do it. Does the Bible say you shall not have cardinals overseeing the Lord's work? You shall not join together in multiple churches and appoint a pope. Does the Bible say that? It does not. What does it say? It says that elders are to rule over churches. What is the authority of elders? What is the group over which they have authority?
Their group.
Their church only. Paul, Acts chapter 20. The Lord has appointed you overseers over this flock. Watch the flock that is in your care. Paul and Barnabas went back through and appointed elders in every church where they had preached. Every church had elders. Is there a verse that tells us do not have a group of elders from various churches meeting together to form a statewide hierarchy to take care of the churches in Alabama? No, there's not a single verse telling us not to do that. There are verses that tell us what to do, and when you tell somebody what to do, you rule out everything else, right? Let me give you an example. I don't really like this example, but it sure is good. When I was much younger, playing softball, still in high school, I think I may have had a part-time job at the time, but definitely no full-time work. My old baseball glove was worn out, and I needed a new one. My dad sent me to the store with his credit card to buy a baseball glove. I also bought an 8-track tape player. I told him when I delivered the card back and the receipt, and I said, I will pay you for this very quickly. Do you know what he said?
Take it back.
He didn't actually. But do you know why he said what he did? Was I authorized to go buy a ball glove? Yes. Was I authorized to go buy a tape player? No. But he didn't tell me not to. Aren't you authorized to do whatever anything that somebody doesn't tell you not to do? No, you are not. His question was, who said you could do that? He said, why didn't you come ask me whether or not you could do that before? I might have told you it was okay, but you didn't ask. You didn't have permission to do that. We have patterns that we need to follow. We still didn't get to group versus individual, but most of that was me talking about our sick folks in the advance. All right, we're not through yet. I need to spend one more week on this discussion, and we're going to talk about Barnabas when we come back, which is where I planned to be, but we got sidetracked. Is there any other question about this topic that we have not come to that you have on your mind or heart? Anybody? All right, well then after I get through with Barnabas, we'll move along into the rest of the text. Thank you.
12 verses in this chapter. We've covered one a week. So by the year 2022, January, February, March.
I figured the other churches gave stay away from it. Preach so long,
That's right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a collection plate at the service.
I'm going to put a basket out there and it's going to say, short sermon
Fun.
fund. Short sermon fund.